I wanted to just give a brief introduction to this phrase that we have used, which is smart business culture. And I think it's a kind of a nice, catchy phrase. But for me, it also is three words, but it's three separate ideas, but three connected ideas. And in my rather lengthy now career as a consultant and coach and facilitator, it's always struck me that we probably think in terms of improving our businesses a little bit too much in terms of having a silver bullet. And I don't think there are any silver bullets. I think it's the connection of approaches that really matters. And that's the idea behind smart business culture. It's three connected and I think mutually supportive ideas. I will just spend 30 seconds summarizing what we mean by smart business culture because they're reflected in the sessions that Giovanna and Maria and I are going to give. So I'm going to start at the bottom by referring to culture. Any business is an organization. It's a complex organization of multiple people. So the connections between them are really important. So culture is about being able to adapt to and lead culture in those complex organizations. And Maria is going to talk to us about something called the GC Index, and I'm going to leave her to talk about that, but it's very much in the cultural space. Business is about making informed decisions that create business value. And today, that's my slot. I'm going to be sharing with you a very brief slice of a business game, which I love, which is called Apples and Oranges. You're going to get the chance to play it. And it is something that very much addresses the idea of understanding how we create value in business. And last, but very much not least, smartness. Now, I think smartness means lots of different things. I think we have to be smart around tech these days, but it's even more important that we be smart around people. And Giovanna is going to be sharing her approach and going to be telling us all about connecting with people. And again, I'm going to leave Giovanna to unwrap all the goodies for that. So that's smart business culture for me. It is a nice phrase, but it's also an interwoven approach. And with that, I'm going to hand over to Maria.
Hey, thank you, Paul, and thanks to you for being here. So most of you work in organizations and have experience with organizations and people and the culture. And usually culture is something that we don't understand until we stay in the company for some time and find out that there are some rules that we don't understand how they were created. And sometimes we're compatible with the culture. Other times we're not compatible with the culture, so we decide to leave the company. And we know that culture is very important for our work life. So what we're going to discuss today is how people shape culture and what we need to be aware of when we join a company or when we are building our business. What should we do? What is important for us to do so that we have some control over that culture? So how can we create a culture of team performance, and how can we create a culture where we understand what is going to happen and doesn't just happen automatically? And how do we avoid a culture that is not very functional or even very bad and negative for people? Let's start with a little game. So let's play a game. Let's say you're flying to London, and on the way, the weather is very bad and you need to land in Moscow. Okay, you're on the airplane, you're traveling, the weather is bad. So instead of going to London, then you change direction and you go to Moscow, and then they tell you, okay, we'll give you a car to drive to London. So they give you a car, and in the car there are two maps. One is the map of Moscow. It's the map of the city, and you can see how to get out of the city. And the other map is the map of Europe. Remember, you're going from Moscow to London by car. You have to drive. And you take the car and the two maps. Which of the two maps do you pick up first? And why?
Apparently, the map of Moscow.
Sorry?
Apparently, the map of Moscow first.
Okay.
To
Tassos
get out
gets
from
the map of Moscow. Okay. What
Oh.
about the others? And why do you get that?
Is the
Europe.
airport inside the town?
It doesn't matter. You know nothing else. All you have is that is a car, two maps, and you have to go to London. That's it. You decide which map to pick up first. You get into the
Europe.
car and you have to pick up a map. Tassos decided to pick up the map of Moscow. What about you?
Europe.
Sorry?
The map of
Richard?
Europe.
Europe.
Map of-
Okay.
Yeah. So you get the relative positions.
Okay. What about the others?
I would go with the map of Moscow first.
You go with the map of Moscow. Okay.
I would say Europe.
Europe. Dimitra, Europe.
Me too. I think Europe.
Europe.
Also.
And Maria?
Europe.
Maria is Europe. Okay. Those who picked up the map of Moscow, why did you pick up the map of Moscow? What was the reason that you picked up this map?
Me first?
I
Oh,
okay.
You go
Yeah,
first.
you went
please,
first.
go ahead.
Anastasius. Okay, should I? Okay, thanks.
Sure,
Then.
go ahead.
Okay. I will pick it up because I mean logically I would want to probably find my way to the highway that connects me. I mean to navigate wherever I am in Moscow to the highway, and then from the highway probably I can pick up and then drive on to the rest of Europe and hopefully to London at some point. So I need to come out of Moscow city, then hopefully to a highway that takes me all the way to London. That's the logic. Huh?
Okay, thank you. Tasso?
Yes, this is the answer. As long as I can have them both, because you said which one you pick up first. I think I start with this one to get out of the town and then continue to Europe, to London.
Okay, thank you. What about the others? Why did you pick up the map of Europe first? All answers are correct, I have to say, but we'll go to something else afterwards. So what about the others? Why did you pick up the other map first?
You've got to know which part of Moscow you're leaving.
Sorry?
You've got to know which part of Moscow you're leaving, the north, the south, the east, or the west, and all points in between.
Okay, and why did you decide to pick up the map of Europe?
Well,
Because
you need to know which direction you're going to go.
okay.
Are you going north, south, east, or west, etc.?
Okay, thank you. Dimitra, Maria.
I suppose I am outside the city, so I want to know where to get and what's the direction to London.
Okay, what about the others? Any other
I agree
ideas?
with Dimitra, but if I had a car, I will take with me Dimitra and the others that said that I will have the map for London, and we would have a great company to make the trip together.
That's a good idea. So let's go back to the presentation and see, why do we do this? This is a game we usually play to show that people think differently. So in this, with this example, what we see is that other people, can you see my screen? Sorry.
Yep, we see it.
Okay, good. So with this game, what we see is that people think differently. So other people want to have the big picture, so they take the map of Europe because they want to have the big picture. So which direction should I go to London? Where is Moscow? Where is London? So they want the big picture. Others want the detail. How do I get out of here? So it's a very different way of thinking and of building the thinking and your reasoning. So we have people who are closer to big picture thinking and detail thinking. We have, big picture people, detail people, idea focused, task focused, people focused, imagination driven, reality driven, obsession, pragmatism. We have all that. So we have different ways of thinking and different ways that are different predominant ways of thinking in people. So what we do and what is important for a culture is to have a mix of all of that. Because, for example, let's say that you have big picture people. So you are in the car and you only get the map of Europe. How will you get out of Moscow? That would be a problem. Or imagine that you only have people who get the map of Moscow and just that. So they may get out of Moscow, but going to the wrong direction or taking the wrong road to go towards that. So we need, from this example, which is very simple example, it's a game, but it shows that the way we think in fact creates a culture in an organization. This is what we have seen with the GC index. We use the GC index, which is a tool to identify the way that people think. So together with that, the natural proclivities of people. So in a culture, we may see people who are idea focused. So the big picture, and they could be strategists or game changers. And these people who are idea focused, they may completely ignore the task, completely ignore the detail. So we may create a culture where people have very good ideas. They are strategists, game changers, so they are idea focused. They only see the big picture. They see their goal. They see where they want to go, where they want to take the company, but they have no idea of the task. They have no idea how to do it. They are not implementers or polishers, and I would say they don't care how they will do that. And when we have people who are, let's say that you have to work with somebody who has big ideas, and you're a person that is more realistic. And they talk to you about big ideas, and when you think about it, you freak out because they have no idea about the cost, about the hundreds and thousands of hours of work that their big idea requires to be implemented. So can you work with, could these two people work together? Probably no, or they would probably have a lot of conflicts and a lot of friction between them. Do you have examples from organizations where you have worked and you had an experience like that? Would you like to share some example if you had some experience with people who think in a completely different way from the way that you think?
You get a lot of this in IT, an awful lot, where you have to solve a business problem, but that's the big idea, and then the coders or the engineers, or latterly with AI, people who are manipulating AI, dealing with the focus and the detail to supply the solution. So yes, come across it a lot.
And this starts from a completely different way of these people, of a completely different way that these people see the world and understand the world. So we have all those types of people: big picture, detail, idea focused, task focused, and people focused. For example, we may have, for example, in this tool that we use, strategists and game changers are the people who are more idea focused. They are different between them, but the way to communicate with them is with ideas. You may give them the big picture. If you start talking about details to those people, they are not interested. So you cannot have a conversation based just on details or on every little clarification that you need to give about your product or your idea or the process or anything. There are other types of people, the playmakers, who are people focused. So they have a lot of energy in working with people, in involving people in what they are doing, in finding the best way to leverage the talents of a person. So these people are the people-focused people. And we have another category, implementers and polishers, who are task-focused. These are the people who get things done. They are interested in detail. They want to know every little detail to start getting involved in the project. These are the people who will ask you all the possible questions about the idea that you have in mind. So how would you communicate with this category, the implementers and polishers? Obviously, you would have to give them every detail. Otherwise, they don't feel safe. They don't feel ready to start, to get involved in doing something. They want to do it. They're implementers. They want to do it. They want to start delivering, but they need to know every detail. So what happens if you have a CEO who is a game changer and has the big ideas? He's obviously obsessed with imagination, sometimes far from reality. And you have a CFO and you have a CFO who is a polisher and wants excellence, so wants everything to be perfect, wants to know every detail. How would these two communicate and work together? What do you think? What do you think would happen? What sort of culture do you think they would create? If one has the big ideas but is not interested in any detail, and the other person needs to know every detail about everything.
It is the context. You have to share with the appropriate target audience. For example, the CEO wants to see the vision, the big picture, but the CFO needs to know the profit, the benefits,
and every detail, yes,
and the value, yes.
Exactly. So there would be lots of conflicts in that case. And how does this affect the culture? And this is a very big question. How is the culture shaped? So for us, why team performance matters now? Because the business reality now is completely different to what it was 15 years ago, 10, 15 years ago. There is constant change. What we see, I work a lot with organizations in the US, in the UK, in Europe, etc. Not so much in Greece, where things move a bit more slowly. But what we see in big organizations is constant change. I mean, people don't know what will happen in the next 3 months, in the next 6 months. So there is complexity, there is pressure. And it's not the technical skills that we need. We do need them, but we have a lot of skills in that area. But we need to understand the impact of a person. And for this reason, we need to be able to measure the proclivity as we did with that little tool. We need to understand the impact of each person so that we can map the culture and be sure that the impact of the people will be the impact that we expect to have in the culture. Let's say that we have, this is another example, let's say that we have these personalities, these four types of people. And these are real examples. So in this case, I'm not going to go into every detail, but in this case, what do we see? We see that this person, the proclivity of this person, the natural proclivity of this person is to be people-focused, but this person has sufficient energy in all areas. So this is a person that can perform in almost every role. So the impact of this person would be, we need also to have more information about the person, but what we see from the proclivity and the energy level is that this person is expected to be able to perform in almost every role because they have almost equal energy in all roles with predominant the proclivity to people. So this is a person that can connect and collaborate with others. This is a person that can communicate with others and find solutions for people. So this is a person that is people focused, but with energy and balance in all other areas. But what do we see here? Here we see somebody who has a lot of energy for new ideas. This is an inventor. This is a game changer with strong polishing traits. And this person could be an inventor, could be a person who strives for excellence, so can have good new ideas and also implement them in the best possible way. But their energy with people is relatively low. So that person would, if they know that, they would hire somebody next to them to look after their team or to organize their team. Or they would probably develop their proclivity in their low proclivity in communication and collaboration. But as a leader, they are the person who has the new ideas and they strive for excellence with little energy for probably leading others because they don't connect with others very well. What do we see in this profile? We see energy, sufficient energy in almost all proclivities. This person has new ideas. He's not a strong inventor like this one, but has new ideas, can connect, can do the work with, will strive for excellence because they have this proclivity. But when they have to implement, they are very weak. So they don't get things done unless it is their idea and they are going to promote themselves and show that they excel. So we need to know that. I mean, this is their kind of impact. So it depends on the role that they have in the organization, and this is the impact that they can have. They are not the people who can get things done. And it's the exact opposite of this person who gets things done, I mean, he's the perfect implementer combined with strategy. But what happens about new ideas or connecting with people? That would be a disaster. This person wants just their routine. They are excellent and perfect in doing things and delivering, but they don't accept new ideas, and they don't connect to others. They don't want, they are not interested in building the teams or the collaboration. Although they are very good at getting things done and at connecting this with strategy. So what is the impact in that case? In all those cases, we see completely different impact that these people can have on the culture. And why this matters, because we know that high-performing teams need diverse impact, not just diverse personalities, but diverse impact, that diverse natural proclivities. Also, they need to have clear roles that are aligned to the strategy and are aligned to their strengths. So if we have a person, for example, who excels at new ideas, is an inventor, is a game changer, and we see that their proclivity is in inventing new ideas and having new ideas, etc., and we put them in, for example, in the accounting departments, then we are killing their proclivity, and they will not perform well. They will be unhappy, first of all, and they will not do the work. They will not deliver the work at the right quality. So it's important to understand the impact of the people and use that to align to assign them the role that is compatible with their proclivity. Also, high-performing teams need, as we said, clear roles and aligned to strengths. Complementarity. They need to be complementary, not duplicate, because if, for example, I'm a playmaker, then I usually like other playmakers. So in a way, I duplicate myself as a leader. I will choose people who are like myself because they have a similar personality, similar proclivity. So I feel more familiar with them. So we need, in order to create the right culture, as we said, we need diverse impact. So we need to select people who have different impact so that we have balance. And then have energy. If we see a profile with very low energy, like, for example, 2, 3, 4, as we said in that tool, it looks like they have low energy, not just in that area of impact, in that type of impact, but they have low energy, probably temporarily because they are going through a crisis or because they just don't have energy. So they will not create a useful impact in the team. So, Giovanna, how much time do I have? Sorry.
You definitely need to wrap it up, my dear.
I think I will wrap this up because I think okay. I don't want to go over. So what else we need for one thing we said is to have diverse impact to create a balanced culture. Also for the high performing teams also need shared language. A shared language for impact. So use the language that is understandable for each proclivity. And this is important when we know our proclivity. For example, we know that we are big picture people, then we are much more familiar with ideas than with details. And we need to understand and be able to also recognize what is easier for other people to understand and adjust our communication. And Giovanna will tell you more about that. So if there are some key tips to apply to your business, one thing is make sure you have diverse impact and energy in the team. The business needs all the types, needs the strategist, the playmaker, the implementer, the polisher, and the game changer. We need them all because we need innovation, we need performance, we need excellence, we need connection with the people, and we need strategy. So we need to have this balance of proclivity. So invite them all, involve them all, find the proclivities and invite them all, involve all the people with different impact. Create a shared language where everybody can understand everybody. When you talk to them, talk with big picture, but also with details so that you cover all needs. Define the behaviors you need. Define exactly the behaviors you need. For example, if you need the behavior of asking a lot of questions, define it so that you know exactly what is necessary for your culture. Define also the ones that do not work. For example, if in your culture doesn't work for example, the taking time between tasks, start one task, wait, start another task. If this doesn't work, and that's an example of a behavior, if this doesn't work in your culture, identify it and know that you need to instruct people to stop doing that or to start doing what works. Measure and take action every time when you measure and see that something isn't going the right way and should be changed. Thank you.
Thank you. You have created a lot of food for thought for all of us. I know culture is a word which probably in business, coaching, facilitation, management, leadership, we use very easily and readily. And it's good to be able to step back and think about culture in more depth. And I also think it's a really good lead into thinking about the business focus, which I'm now going to try and give to us, because in a business, we are having to manage our culture within the constraints of running a business. We have to make a profit. We have to be viable. So I think the connection between culture and business, although it may not be obvious or may not often be talked about, is really important. So I am going to attempt to squeeze into about 15 or 20 minutes, something of what I would normally take a day to do. So right after this meeting, I'm going to be talking to the VP of supply chain at a very large cola company in the United States, which is not Coca-Cola. And they are going to be doing this in a whole day. I'm going to try and do it in 15 minutes. So the first thing I want to do is draw your attention to the chat. And in the chat, you should find a link. And I would like you, please, to click on the link. And then you're going to put in your name. Just your first name is fine, or whatever name you want to add. And there are a couple of boxes that I'm going to ask you to check. And that should take you into the game called Apples and Oranges, which I'm going to give you a very brief taste of. So can everybody see the link in the chat? Okay, fantastic. So I'm going to spend about 3 minutes just describing the game, and then I'm going to set you up to play the game for hopefully 5 or 10 minutes. So we are all in a good place. So this game is about business finance, and it's for people who are predominantly not financial specialists. And the reason why I think it's such a fantastic game is because it helps people to understand their role in the bigger picture of their business. And I start normally by describing the bigger picture of this business. Somebody tell me what this business looks like on the slide at the moment.
It's a bakery.
It's a bakery, right? And we know it's a bakery because we can see kind of bakery things going on. And you might also notice that there is a dotted pathway which rotates around the slide. And that's important because one of the things that we learn in the game is that value circulates inside a business, and that direction is important. So you'll see that in the top left-hand corner, we've got some raw materials. We have some wheat. Then as we move around, we've got a baker who does something wonderful to the raw materials and produces some tasty loaves. And those are then sold to a customer. It's turned into cash, and then the cash is reinvested in the raw materials and in the wages for the baker. Makes sense as a kind of circulation of value in a business. And we tell people that there are 3 simple rules within a business. I'm not going to dwell on the numbers too much for now, but the first rule is that the cost of our finished goods is equal to what we've spent on them. So in this really simple example, we've spent 10 on the raw materials, we've spent 8 on the added value, the wages of the baker and the electricity that's used and so on. That means that we've got finished goods which are worth 18, 10 plus 8. So that's rule number 1. The finished goods are worth what we spent on them. Rule number 2 is if the customers are willing to pay more than we've spent, then we're in business. And kind of people know this, we have to make a profit, but it is a really important rule to bear in mind. And it means that we need to know what we've spent and which things we've spent the money on. And then anybody going to want to have a guess at the third rule? We have goods that are valued at what we spent on making them. We need to sell them at a profit. What might the third rule be? Something that's really important to us as individuals as well. So the third rule is we need to have more.
The part of the profit that we spent, we invest. The part of the profit that we reinvest.
Yeah, and thanks, Anastasia. You're right. There is another word that I need to introduce, and that is cash flow. So we need to have more cash coming in than going out in order to sustain our operations. And we kind of know that as individuals as well. You know, get to the end of the week, no money, then that's a problem. So those are our 3 simple rules, and that is an introduction. We then move on to the game board, which is what you're going to be seeing in a minute. And the game board is a more sophisticated version of the bakery example. And this is where we're going to play a game in which you, as the participants, if this was a whole day workshop, you'll be working in a team of 4, in which you run a company for 3 simulated years. And in the first year, there are 3 periods. So we can think of the period as lasting for 4 months. And so you can think of that circulation of value as applying to any business. We buy some raw materials, we add some value to the raw materials, we sell them for a profit, and then we reinvest the cash. And then, so we're going to come to year 1 in the game. And in a moment, I'm going to open up the game and you will see the board, and you will see at the top of the screen an instruction from the checklist. So a sneak peek here at what the participants experience as they play Apples and Oranges Business Finance. And this is the game board. Inside the grey rectangle in the center of the screen, you can see all of the assets of the company, and they're counted by coins. Those are the black discs, or by the numbers that you can see represented on the screen. So we talk about millions. So each of those coins there is a million. And for example, we have 16 million in plant and equipment, 12 million in real property. We run the period by using the checklist at the top of the screen. And the first step is payment arrives, accounts receivable are converted into cash. In other words, the customers pay us the money that they owe for goods and services that have already been invoiced. And so my accounts receivable, I move over into cash. You can see that the numbers update automatically. We now have 29 million in cash. I then move on to the second instruction in the checklist, which is receiving orders and deliver. You sell 2 batches, you move them from stock of finished goods to cost of goods sold. Here are my stock of finished goods, and I move them into cost of goods sold. So we've recorded the fact that we have sold goods with a cost price of 4 million per batch, so 8 million. Instruction 3 is we're going to invoice the customers. The total price for the 2 batches was 20 million. In other words, although they cost 4 million to make, we're going to charge 10 million for each of those batches. So we're going to receive 20 million from the customer's money and move that to accounts receivable. Customers' money is down here. They've got 100 million in their budgets. They are going to allocate 20 of those millions to these batches, and we're going to put that money into accounts receivable. Remember, they get a 1-period credit term, so they haven't paid that money to the apples and oranges company yet. It is in accounts receivable. Then we need to update our production line. The production bar is at the top. It's the blue bar. And the first thing we need to do is update assembly by moving the assembled product batches into the stock of finished goods. We had 5 batches of finished goods at the beginning. We sold 2 of them, so we've updated them from the assembled work in progress. Then we move down the line and we are updating our manufacturing. We're going to move our batches from manufacturing into assembly. There are 2 of those batches, and we're going to pay 1 million from our cash to each of those batches to reflect the fact that we have spent money on moving those semi-manufactured, if you like, components. We've assembled them, so they are now fully assembled goods. Step number 6 is further down the line. We need to move 2 batches of our stock of materials, raw materials, if you like, into manufacturing. So there are my 2 batches going into manufacturing. Once again, as they are manufactured, there is a cost associated with that, and therefore I take 1 million cash and put that into each of the 2 batches. And you might have guessed by now that the next step is I need to replenish my stock of materials. I do that by paying 2 million for each of 2 batches. There we go. And so now my production line is back to where it was at the beginning of the period. I then had to pay 1 million for development, things like R&D for new products, long-term marketing. I'm going to take 1 million from cash and put that in the development bucket over here. And I have 6 million that I need to pay for my overheads, the salaries, other costs of the departments that keep us going, like sales and marketing, administration. And in period 1 in the game, we also pay the taxes for the previous year. And so I'm going to take 2 million from my cash and put that into taxes. And you might be thinking, well, why is it 2 million? It's deemed to be 2 million from the previous year. So in year 1, we're paying the taxes for year 0. As we play the game, which we're not going to continue to do now, we would find that there is a different tax rate for year 1, and we'd then make the calculation accordingly. So we have now completed period 1. Participants would then go on to play the other 2 periods in the year, and then they would end the year by calculating the profit for the year that they've just played. And as you can see on the left, there is a template for them to fill out, which they can do from the information on the screen. And we then go on to ask the question of whether this was a good year or a bad year. Turns out it wasn't such a good year. And we can improve year 1 by changing the way that we play the playlist, the checklist. So I hope that gives an idea of just the mechanics of apples and oranges. It is by far from the full game. So the idea of the game overall is to give people an insight into profit and loss accounts, balance sheets, performance metrics, KPIs, and to stimulate discussion about how the decisions that they make in business can have a favorable impact on the financial results of their company. So I'm going to leave the game there, although there is much more still to be played. And the takeaway from this is that small differences have a big impact on the bottom line. In year 2, it gets a bit more strategic. We get choices. We get the teams to make decisions about whether to follow strategy of developing their markets geographically or developing their products. And that stimulates a conversation about strategy. And in year 3, we give them some decisions to make about improvement initiatives, or in the service and retail version, about the right kind of customers to go after. So everybody has a nice time playing the game, but the value of the game is that it makes people much more sensitized to the impact of the everyday business decisions they make on the financial performance of the company. And that's why I love this game so much. So if I hope you've had fun playing the game a little bit. If any of you by any chance are interested in a longer practice with the game, or maybe know someone who would be interested in doing so, then let me know. But with that, I'm going to hand over to Giovanna to talk about the smart part of smart business culture.
Paul, thank you so much. I think as adults, play is still so important, and it's great. If we did have more time, it would be lovely to play longer and understand the depth of it, but it's wonderful. I'm going to jump us right into it for the sake of time. So just to give you all an idea, I am essentially in the business of teaching conscious communication skills, people skills. How do we actually build beautiful relationships with the people in our life? Everything from our professional lives all the way to our personal lives. So I'm going to have you guys take a wild guess at what you think is the word hidden behind here. This is my absolute favorite quote of life. The quality of our lives is based upon the quality of our... What do you guys think it might be?
Mindset, thought.
Beautiful. Keep going. What else? What else could it be?
Friends.
Friends. Okay.
Relationships, yeah.
Say it again, Francis.
Relationships.
Relationships. Beautiful.
Health.
Go ahead.
Health.
Health. Okay. Are we ready? Lenia, what do you think?
Relationships.
Beautiful. Oh, now I'm seeing that you guys probably can see what's going on here. Yes. The quality of our lives is based upon the quality of our relationships. And this is exactly it. It is so important that we know how to build healthy relationships with people. And we must be able to do that through, of course, our people skills and our ability to communicate with people. And I'm going to emphasize that a lot of communication is actually very much nonverbal, and we'll get more into that right now. So I'm a big fan of research. I love backing everything up with a little bit of science. This research was done by Harvard University. And what they did was they followed a group of men and women who were actually very young at the time when the research started, and they followed their lives for 75 years. And what Harvard wanted to discover was, what is the number one thing that makes people the happiest and the healthiest? So I want you to just shout it out loud. What do you think it is? The number one thing that makes people the happiest and the healthiest?
Relationships.
Precisely. And in more detail, what Harvard discovered: loneliness actually kills us as people. It's not just about having any relationship, but rather about having quality ones over quantity. And interestingly enough, that healthy relationships actually protect our brain. So because of all of this, I have gone into creating what I call the connection code. And there's a 9-key system here, which I have built out, that's teaching people how do you, as leaders and as professionals, how do you master your communication and your ability to connect and also lead greatly so that you can build these healthy relationships. Now, for the sake of time, we cannot get into all 9 of them today, but I will dabble with a few of them and share little bits with you all. So first and foremost, we're diving into consciousness. And what exactly does this mean? Well, I'm going to start us off with a quote. The quality of your consciousness at this moment is what shapes your future. So to give you an idea of what this means, if any of you woke up this morning and didn't sleep very well, maybe you're hungry just before you came onto this meeting, maybe you had a stressful moment, all of that is going to impact now how you show up in this space. The more aware we are, the more conscious we are of what's actually operating internally in the background, now we can start to change the way we're showing up, the way we're leading, and the way we're communicating. But consciousness is so important. How aware are we of maybe what we're thinking, what we're feeling, what our body is signaling to us? Did we get enough sleep? Did we eat well? Are we rested? And how is all of that impacting how we show up in every area of our lives and in our communication and relationships? So, what is consciousness? I'm just going to come and ask you, Lena, what is consciousness to you? Oh, Lenya, sorry, not Lena, Lenya, my apologies.
Sorry, I thought that it was Lina also here. I think how much present you are at the moment.
Beautiful. Richard, what about you? What would you define as consciousness?
Being in the moment.
Being in the moment, yes. Anastasios?
Yeah, awareness.
Awareness. Maria?
Same.
Same. Francis?
Yeah, living in the moment.
Living in the moment. Beautiful. So, to oversimplify, it's an awareness of ourself and it's also an awareness of other people. So, of course, when we are aware of ourselves, what are the thoughts, the feelings, even the sensations going on internally? And then, of course, when we're aware of what's going on externally, we're checking in. What's the impact we have on other people? What's the impact our actions have on other people? And what's the impact other people have on us? And why is this so important? Because we're going into, let's say, the office, or we're running meetings, or we're working with people, we're operating in different social spaces. And if we're not even aware of what's internally going on here in our thinking and our feelings, in our actions and our behaviors, then we don't even see the impact we have on the lives of other people. And vice versa. What is the impact other people have on us? And how is that going to change how we walk away? So, for example, now we've had the energy of Maria, of Paul, and now myself. How are all of us influencing you and adding in some way to your own life that when you step away from this meeting, you'll have some insightful things to think about? Next, I want us to do a little exercise quickly, all of us together. I want you all to actually just close your eyes for me. We're going to take a big breath in. I want you all to just tune into the body. Let's breathe in together and release. And we're going to do what I call a body scan. Let's take 2 more big breaths in together. Release. And a final breath in, sitting nice and tall, grounded, feet rooted into the ground. Nice and relaxed, shoulders back. Release. And I want you to imagine you have an X-ray starting from the top of your head, and we're going to move all the way down to the bottom of our feet. And we're just going to scan. And we're just going to do a body scan following my voice and moving down and checking if there's any areas of the body that feel discomfort. So starting from the top of our head, moving over our forehead, over our eyes, our nose, noticing if any tension is in your jaw or in your tongue, noticing how your throat might feel. Checking in with your shoulders. Is there any pressure or heaviness on the shoulders? Any tightness in the chest? Moving all the way down into the stomach. Do you feel relaxed, or maybe is there tension there? All the way down the arms into your fingertips. How do they feel? Moving down over the waist, over your thighs, your knees, your calves, all the way down into your feet and your toes, and just noticing, was there any tension, discomfort, anything in the body you may have not noticed before we tuned in and did this exercise? Just take a big breath in. And being aware and release. And you can slowly open your eyes and come back. And if anyone would like to share, did anyone notice any tension or discomfort or any sensation? Could have even been an itch or something of that sort in their body.
I felt my tension to my jaw, tongue, and my shoulders a bit stiff.
This is a very important exercise simply because it has us building awareness of what's actually going on in our bodies, what's going on physically that we might not even notice is impacting us as we're moving through our day. So I like to say very simply, we want to notice it, name it, and navigate through it. So what are we noticing? Well, first and foremost, we want to become conscious of 4 different areas. Of course, like we did here, what's happening in the body, our levels of comfort, any sort of signals or reactions our body is having. How tired are we? Do we feel we're rested? Do we feel that we've eaten well? And then moving on to the mind. What are our thoughts? What's going on? Maybe internal dialogue or blocks or fears that are happening. It might be that you're going into a meeting and you're feeling tense, or sending out an email and you're not feeling good about it. Or maybe the whole day is actually going quite smooth. And so noticing these things, and then how they impact the heart. So how does that have an impact on your emotions? So what you're thinking and feeling physically might actually influence what you're feeling, and even the expectations you might show up with, and the expectations you might even have of other people, and how that could affect you emotionally. And lastly, your energy levels. So what's the energy you're putting out and disseminating into the world? And what's the energy you're also receiving from other people? Now, I'd love to just give details here. So of course, in the body, you might notice there's tension or discomfort. Maybe you're going into a meeting and your stomach's in knots, or you're noticing your throat is a bit choked up when you're talking and sharing an idea. Could be mentally that you're overthinking and ruminating on something. There could be a lot of thinking about, something that you need to complete. It's not possible to do, or you can't stand when your colleague does this, or that it's not your fault that something else happened. So even being mindful of the internal dialogue and chatter. Of course, emotionally, is there anxiety maybe going on? Maybe you feel disconnected from your team or the people you're working with or managing. There could be a great sense of disappointment. You needed something to be done, or even frustration, and people didn't follow through. They weren't reliable. So noticing that emotion that can come up. And of course, lastly, the energy. So the moment you're even walking into the office or sending that email or running a meeting, how is the energy? And how is that impacting you? And how are you also impacting other people? So I always love to use this beautiful diagram, cup half full, cup half empty. And it's really about noticing and being conscious what's happening before, during, and after. And this could be before, during, and after an interaction you're having with someone, or a meeting you're running, or even just going to work. What's the internal dialogue, thinking, and feeling before you even arrive at work? Were you stuck in traffic? Did that frustrate you? Did you not sleep well again? Did that make you feel more tired? And now is that impacting the way you work? Or vice versa. Maybe you had a really good rest. Everything was smooth on the way to work, and you're having great meetings. And so now that energy is coming through during your day. And lastly, what is the impact, the aftermath that you're leaving on people, right? How are you communicating with people? Again, verbally, but also non-verbally. What is your body language saying to people? What is your energy saying to people that's going to leave an impact on the people that you're working with? And also, you step away from work and you take a lot of the stresses of work and the energy and everything behind. And how is that now going into your personal life? And so also being aware of that, it's a cycle. And so you're going home to your personal life, you're coming back to work in the morning, even sometimes with the stress of that personal life. So who are you before you're coming into work? How is that impacting your day? And then how are you leaving? And are you leaving with that energy? And what is that energy? So, of course, very quickly, I like to say the quickest ways to change our state is to breathe it out or to move it out. So what are some really quick techniques here that we can do? I want us to actually practice it quickly with each other. It's called the double inhale and single exhale. So just to show you quickly, it looks like this. We're doing a full inhale in, then a second inhale, and a release. So it's a full inhale, whatever air is left, and a release. Can we do this with each other 4 times? Let's go for it. Breathe in, and release. Again, in, release. A third time, in, release. And a last time, in, and release. So stress comes up throughout the day. This is sometimes the quickest way to move the energy out and to get the stress going. Also, I love to talk about somatic therapy, and that's just moving the body. And sometimes it's standing and shaking and releasing because we have cortisol and adrenaline that builds up in the body, and we want to let that go throughout the day rather than holding on to it when we are extremely stressed. So, the last piece to all of this is what I love to recommend to my clients. I call them daily alarms. So, setting an alarm morning, afternoon, and evening, and simply just asking yourself, what am I thinking, feeling, and doing right now? So how are those thoughts impacting the feelings that you're having, and how is that now impacting your actions and the decisions you're making? We're constantly making decisions throughout our day. We're constantly making decisions as we're talking to people, as we're running meetings, as we're at work, having to do whatever it is that we're doing, we're making these decisions. And so to be aware of what's going on mentally and emotionally as we're taking physical action is so important. So when the alarm goes off, it sort of jolts us out of this robotic mode, and it gets us realizing, oh, I was thinking that, was that actually helpful? Or I was doing that thing and I don't think that was the best decision I could have made. And so this is very powerful. Okay, I'm going to jump us forwards. When we are conscious, we also now can bring compassion in. And this is one of the other keys. We don't have a lot of time to jump into it, but compassion really looks like a removal of judgment. And when we're not in a compassionate space, we're doing a lot of shaming or blaming. So what does that look like? A lot of pointing fingers at ourselves, saying, oh, I was wrong. I didn't do that well enough. It wasn't a good enough job. They didn't like it. Or blaming other people, pointing fingers at them and saying, they didn't perform well. This wasn't very good. How could they have thought that that would have been done well? And so shame and blame in the workspace is highly problematic to having any sort of healthy workplace culture. So when we're conscious, we're also aware of whether this judgment and the shame and blame towards ourselves and others are coming in. When we're also conscious, we can access something called flow states. This is something I particularly love to discuss more of. And I actually want to just very quickly, if I'm able to, I want to share this with you. It's let's see if I can open it up. This is an expert, Stephen Kotler, speaking on flow states, and his work is extremely powerful. So I will show you why consciousness affects our flow and flow affects our performance at work. You can all see this? I hope so.
Flow is a technical term, technically defined as an optimal state of consciousness, one where we feel our best and we perform our best. Awareness will start to merge. Your sense of self will vanish. Time will dilate, which is a fancy way of saying it passes strangely. It'll slow down and you get that freeze frame effect from maybe anyone who's been in a car crash. And more frequently, it speeds up and 5 hours go by in like 5 minutes. And throughout, all aspects of performance, both mental and physical, go through the roof.
Amazing. So that's just a very quick idea of flow. But when we're able to access high levels of consciousness, we can get into flow. And flow, well, have any of you ever experienced being in the day and you're sucked into your work and you're just really hyper-focused and you're getting a lot of things done? This is a flow state. Same can go for conversations with people. You're really in it, hours pass by. So if we can access these flow states in our workday, the amount of things that can get done in a very short, efficient period of time is incredible. And lastly, I'm going to end us off with integrity. And the interesting thing about integrity is actually that they say one of the top 3 qualities that you should look for when you're hiring someone is integrity. And what exactly does this mean? So if we are in integrity, it's really when our words and our actions align with each other. So if I say I'm going to be here at 5, you show up at 5, as all of you did today. You all showed that you were in integrity. If you say you're going to complete something for work and you get it done, now what you're doing is you're building a deep sense of trust. You're letting the other person know that they can trust and rely on you. And this is the foundation for any healthy relationship professionally and personally. So just to give a very brief idea, of course, there's so many benefits to being in integrity, including building healthy relationships. But these are the 7 qualities that actually having you embody it. And now, for the sake of time, I'm going to share just a few of these. Integrity allows you to actually be able to communicate clearly. So exactly as I said, if you say you're going to be here at 5, be at this place, this is the link, you're on time, that's being clear. And now with that clarity, you can be in integrity. It also includes consistency. So it's not that one day you show up on time and the next day you don't, or one day you perform really well at something and the next day you're giving poor quality work. No, it's more about showing that you can be consistent. And with consistency also comes commitment and reliability. You're showing people you can be reliable, you're committed to what you're doing, and even showing up on time shows your reliability. Committing your work, finishing your work, completing it shows your reliability, and that again builds trust with people. Now, you might notice that there is courage in here. And courage is a really big one that falls into integrity, because oftentimes things can come up in the workforce that will have you questioning your values and even questioning your levels of honesty. And so I'll give you a very brief story just to share where I'm going at with this. There was a very junior level lawyer. One year he graduated, started working for a law firm for a few months. His boss came into his office one day to talk about things, and the phone rang. And the boss said to him, "If they're looking for me, tell them I'm not here." And so the junior level lawyer picked up the phone and he handed the phone over to his boss. And his boss had the conversation, hung up, and he said to the lawyer, he said, "Why didn't you tell them I wasn't here? I told you to tell them I'm not in the office. Why would you do that?" And the junior level lawyer said, "With all due respect, sir, I will never lie for you, but that also means I will never lie to you." And that was a very strong principle that took a lot of courage on his end to be in integrity and in alignment with his values, which is transparency and not lying. And the irony of all of this, he got promoted to a senior level position very shortly afterwards. So when we are in integrity, we are clear, we're consistent in our actions, we're committed. It often takes courage, but this is what builds the foundation of trust in any of our relationships. So I'm going to wrap up here and just have you guys thinking a little bit more. How often do you say that you'll do something and maybe you don't follow through? Or how often do you follow through on something and maybe you're late? How often do you clearly communicate and take responsibility if you can't follow through and giving enough ample time? How often do you commit to something, but maybe deep down you know that you're going to break the commitment? So I want you all to think about these questions and maybe even feel free to take a picture of this and reflect on it a little bit further, because sometimes we don't realize that we may actually be out of integrity in certain areas of our life. And it's very important for us to actually follow through to build that trust and that foundation, that solid foundation with other people, that they can trust us. So this is essentially a few of the pieces of this 9 key system. And of course, I'd love to know your biggest takeaways between what myself, Maria, and Paul shared. So I'd love for you all to share with us. And lastly, feel free to reach out directly to me. If any of this touched you and you want to know more about personally everything that we shared with you, or you want to bring it back to your company, bring it into a business, or you feel there's other businesses that could benefit from this, feel free to reach out. You can send us a message and me, Maria, and Paul will set up something with all of you. So without further ado, I'd love to actually just come around and hear some of the biggest takeaways from all of you, starting with Maria.
Do you mean me?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. The quality of our lives is based on our relationships, but I totally agree. But the way that we build our relationships is based on our character, our personality. There are so many factors that can affect all that. So this is the reason that I truly believe that all of this has to do with our mindset.
Yes, for sure. Lenia?
Okay, I really like the part for with breathing, and it was a nice touch in our everyday lives that we can actually do. And I'm thinking about the integrity part, but I I think I need my time to how I respond. I think that when I am tired, I'm not so reliable.
That's a very interesting observation.
Yeah, it's a personal. Okay.
Yeah, and
But
that
thank you.
actually ties back, Lenia, to consciousness. So even being aware of when you're tired, then will have you choosing to show up differently in your integrity in the future. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you. Haristo. Francis.
Thanks, Giovanna. I think I'll definitely try and find out more about the flow state and probably, how could I get closer and closer to that or be more in the flow state? But I fully agree with you that there are moments when you're in that phase when everything somehow seems to click and you're really in the groove. But of course, the idea is to stay in that phase as much as possible to get things done. I also like the body scan exercise a lot and quite easy to do. And maybe one of the takeaways is to plan that in, set the alarms, like you said. And then I think out of the first section about culture, I always wondered whether a clash of personalities let's say, this strength is good for teams or team performance or not. But then I realized from the session we had that we probably need these, and it's more the diversity, somehow putting it all in the menu, because you need those sort of, they seem counteractive, but I think they reinforce each other because you sort of fill out for the deficiencies in people. So yeah, I'll reflect on that and thanks a lot for the session.
Amazing. I think Maria's visual puts it really well, so you can see how all the different personalities can affect essentially the culture of a workplace, and then blending that, of course, again with awareness. Once we're aware of our strengths and weaknesses, then how do we show up and communicate with the other people? Okay, I think, do we have? Yes, Anastasios, go for it. What were any of your takeaways from today?
It was massive, very tough question. I needed more time to digest all this information.
Yes.
Something you described in a slide when you said name it. When you name it, it's easier to identify something and it's easier to see it if you have a name for it. If you know what I mean. If this is an abstract idea or something, or a term or something, you cannot name it, this is where you lose it.
What I find fascinating, Anastasios, is how the mind works. It's like that one thing that really stands out. So it's brilliant. Yeah, it's great. And naming it is definitely super powerful. I'm going to send us over to Maria to just close it up for us, Maria. And thank you, everyone, for joining us.
Thank you, everyone, for being here with us today. I hope you got some useful ideas or insights. We work together to show how smart business culture has all those three components: communication and skill, that build the culture eventually, and what to do to create a better culture. Thank you so much, and we hope to see you again in a next event. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, everyone. Have a lovely afternoon.
Thank you very much. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.